4 o'clock and we have quorum, so we are going to begin our meeting. I see Sarah has already started our live streaming, so thank you, Sarah. And I will begin by calling this meeting of Heritage Kitchener to order. And we'll begin with our discussion items as per usual. So our first discussion item is the Heritage Permit Application HPA 2022 IV 006 for 35 Gordon Avenue. And I'm going to just pass it over to Diksha to provide the overview.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to share my screen here. I thought we would do something a bit different for this meeting, helps keep things in order. So the first agenda item that we have is Heritage Permit 2022 Part 4 for 35 Gordon Avenue. So this property is located on the corner of Clarence Place and Gordon Avenue within the Central Frederick neighborhood. And this permit primarily proposes repairs to the foundation wall on the south and west sections of the house, and then the segmental brick arch here. So as you can see in these pictures, the masonry work has been deteriorating quite a bit for many years. So the applicant is proposing, first of all, to repair the affected sections of the foundation wall by purging and then repointing it with lime-based type O mortar. And then for this segmental brick arch here, they're planning to take out the bricks, do whatever repairs that they need to do, and then reassemble it again. All the other information is included in the report. So this is just a basic summary of what they're proposing.
Great, thanks, Diksha. All right, so I will open it up to the committee for any questions. Garrett is also here if there are any questions for either Diksha or Garrett about this application. All right, this does also require a motion. So if you are ready to move, you may also do that. Councillor Chapman?
Yeah, I'm happy to move it.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so as a reminder, if this does receive unanimous consent, it will be processed under delegated authority following the committee meeting. Otherwise, it will go to council on May 9th, so next week. So the motion, Councillor Chapman, that we have currently is that pursuant to Section 33 of the Ontario Heritage Act, Heritage Permit Application HPA 2022 IV 006 be approved to permit repairs of the exterior foundation wall and of the segmental brick arch above the second-story window on the rear west elevation on the property municipally addressed as 35 Gordon Avenue in accordance with the supporting information submitted with this application. Do you move as worded?
Yeah, I'm happy to move it as word. I just have a question about, can you just show us what's being proposed in the fixing process?
Oh, yes. So for the exterior foundation wall here, they're proposing to remove the purging, which is the sections of the cement that you can see, and then repair it by repointing the mortar joints with lime-based type O mortar. And then for the segmental brick arch here, they're proposing to remove the bricks, do the repairs as needed, and then reassemble them.
Okay, I noticed in the picture of the window that I presume is it a wood frame? Is that part of the repair work as well?
Not for this permit, no. It's just the bricks above the wooden window. So
all right, any other questions? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. So the motion as previously read, and we'll do our usual roll call vote. So Councillor Chapman.
I support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Gazzola?
In favor.
Thank you. Martin?
Yes, in favor.
Thank you. Robin?
I am in favor, and I just want to give folks a heads up that I'm going to be on and off camera today because I don't know if you heard, but Roe v. Wade is falling, so it's been a little busy over here. Anyways, in favor.
Thank you, Robin. Jean, I see, has joined us. Jean, are you there?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Thank you. Peter?
In favor.
Thank you. Sam, that's me. I am in favor. Ilona?
In favor.
Thank you. And Shannon?
Favor.
Thank you. And Jordan, I see you are here now as well.
In favor.
Thank you. Have I missed anyone? All right, great. I believe that passes unanimously, so it will be processed under delegated authority at the conclusion of the meeting. All right then, so we'll move on to our next item, which is Heritage Permit Application HPA 2022 IV007, also for 35 Gordon Avenue. This is the second story rear window repair and installation of new storm windows. So Deeksha, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this permit actually deals with the window that's below the segmental arch that we were talking about. So currently the window is not functioning efficiently. The applicant is not able to open the window. And as you can see here, a part of the interior sill has been removed by previous owners. So the applicant is proposing to repair and restore the window so that it closely resembles the original as well as closely as possible. And then they also want to install a new storm window here so that they can get this window functioning again. So staff recommend that this heritage permit be approved with the condition that the new storm window that's going to be installed be provided for review for clearance to staff before the final installation of the storm window.
Great, thank you, Deeksha. Questions for Deeksha on this application? Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, maybe this is a silly question, but so I used to have storm windows, and you say that they want to change the storm window to make the window functional. I'm not quite sure how that works because the storm window doesn't make the window any more functional, really, does it? It's still, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I might have mixed up my wording a bit. So they want to, first of all, restore the window and repair it so that they can open it and then also install a new storm window. I don't know if you can see clearly here, there's one that's already here. They want to replace that to a new one.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right, seeing none, this item also requires a motion. Would anyone like to make that motion? Peter.
A motion that it be accepted.
Thanks, Peter. All right, so this motion, again, if it receives unanimous consent, can be processed under delegated authority following the meeting. Otherwise, again, it will go to council on the 9th. The motion that we have currently for ourselves is that pursuant to section 33 of the Ontario Heritage Act, Heritage Permit Application HPA 2022 IV007, requesting permission to repair the second story rear west window and the installation of a storm window be approved subject to the following condition. 1, that a sample storm window be produced for review to heritage planning staff for related heritage clearance prior to proceeding with the installation of the new storm window. Peter, you motion as worded?
Yes.
Great. All right. comments or questions? All right, seeing none, we will move to the vote. Councillor Chapman,
In favor?
you, Councillor Gazzola,
In favor.
Councillor Michaud,
In favor.
Jordan,
In favor.
Martin,
In favor.
you, Robin,
In favor.
Jean,
In favor.
Peter.
In favor.
I am also in favor. Ilona
In favor.
and Shannon.
In favor.
Thank you all. And did I miss anyone? Excellent. All right, so that also passes unanimously, so it will proceed through delegated authority at the end of our meeting. All right, just flying through today. So we'll move on to item 3.3, the draft heritage impact assessment for 50 to 52, 56 Weber Street West and 107 Young Street, DSD 2022-187. I will note that there have been written submissions that have been received on this matter from Hal Yeager and from the ACO North Waterloo Region Branch. So committee members, you should have received those via email from Sarah last week. And I will pass it now over to Deeksha, who's going to provide an overview for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So 50 to 52, 56 Weber Street West and 107 Young Street are located on the corner of Weber Street West and Young Street. They are located within the Civic Center Neighborhood Heritage Conservation District and are designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Heritage Kitchener previously considered a proposal where the applicant was proposing to temporarily relocate 107 Young Street offsite for the construction, but now they have revised their proposal to retain it on site and instead integrate it into the new development by demolishing the southeast corner of the house and integrating it with the new building. Staff are currently reviewing the HIA for this application, and at this stage, we are seeking the committee's input on this application. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention 50 to 52 and 56 Weber Street have been approved to be demolished, and that was approved by council in August of 2020.
Great, thank you, Deeksha. So I will let committee members know that Rachel Redshaw from MHBC Planning is also in attendance today to respond to committee questions. So you can direct questions to Deeksha and to Rachel. But before we do that, we do have some delegations who are registered to speak on this item. And delegations, I'm going to remind you that you have 5 minutes for your presentation. As your 5 minutes expires, I will unmute and ask you to conclude. So please try to remain respectful of the committee's time. All right, so we're going to begin with Marg Roel from ACO North Waterloo Region Branch. And we,
Hi, Mary. I have an individual who has joined the meeting as Dana. I'm just wondering if I can take a moment to see if this might be Ms. Marg Roel.
yes, please do that, Sarah.
Hi there. Good afternoon. Could you please identify yourself and the item that you are hoping to attend with regards to?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I am the owner of 35 Gordon Avenue.
Okay.
So
We have just dealt with both of those items, I believe. So you should be good to head out if you wanted to, but you are very welcome to stay and watch the remainder of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Through back to you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, I don't have Ms. Rowell on the call with us at the moment.
That's all right. Thanks, Sarah. So we will move on then to Neil Barda. We'll just give a moment for
there. I believe I've unmuted myself.
Yeah, we can see and hear you, so you can begin your 5-minute presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for inviting submissions from the public and allowing me to speak as a neighbor. My name is Neil Barda. I live on Roy Street at number 31. Roy Street joins Yonge Street near where this building is going up. I support the proposed building. I think it's going to much improve that corner of the neighborhood. And I also like how they managed to retain that lovely old craftsman house at 107 Yonge. And when viewed from the street, it looks like visually it's going to be kind of separate from the building, even though it's tied in. So that looks like a really good solution. I have a concern with the Heritage Impact Assessment Report, Appendix E, Angular Plane Study. That's page 84 of 321. The 45-degree angular plane is shown as originating at the north side of Roy Street. And the report states the proposed development meets the 45-degree angular plane guidelines when measured from the edge of the low-rise residential properties on Roy Street, which is on the north side of Roy Street. And I'm just wondering why they're measuring from there. When I look at the Civic Center Heritage Conservation District Plan, page 4.7, they write about using angular plane zoning to address potential impacts on existing residential office conversion uses. And when we look at that map that was just displayed showing where the proposed build is there on the corner, it shows some of the neighboring properties. I wonder if it's possible to pull up that map again. Is that available? That's great. Let's work from that one. So along the south side of Roy Street, there's a number of properties that are identified as residential office conversion, and the Heritage Conservation District Plan seems to want to protect those with 45-degree angular plane. But on the corner of Yonge and Roy Street is a property, I think it's 113 Yonge. It's a residential office conversion property, and putting the origin of the 45-degree angular plane across the street from the far side of the property at Yonge Street doesn't really seem to meet those requirements from the district plan. I wonder if I could see the second slide that I sent along, if you're able to display that. Yeah, that one shows a little more detail where these lots are. You can see 113. So that putting it on the far side of 113 doesn't really appear to meet the requirements of the Heritage Conservation District Plan. It appears to be incorrect information, and I'm wondering if the document can be revised to either correct it or remove it. And that was my question and concern about the proposed bill. Thanks very much for your time.
Great, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to our next delegation then, which is Steve Burrows. And we'll give them just a moment to transition into this part of the meeting.
Hello.
Hello, so welcome, and you can begin your 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much for letting me speak today. You guys have seen me a lot, I think, regarding this project, but I just wanted to take a couple minutes and just run over some of the backgrounds again. I can't forward this, can I? You forward that. So go forward. So first, I just wanted to look quickly at the context and go ahead again. And what you see in this neighborhood is a lot of variation in building types, a lot of texture, a lot of relief as well. Forward, yeah. What's very apparent here as well is that there's a real sense of craft in the neighborhood. And this sense of craft really engenders a sense of feeling and a connection both to the past and to your neighbors and buildings around. So what we wanted to do, and we were trying to, find how do we tap into people's senses to sort of evoke the same sort of feeling as what people would feel in this neighborhood. What we realized is we really want to avoid, sort of the mundane buildings that, something cliche or formulaic that you see a lot of today. So this one here, the slide here that we're on, is the first thing I wanted to speak to in that regard. And this is the old site plan. I didn't renew the site plan, so the new site plan is slightly different, but the concepts are the same. So what we want to achieve here is that at the intersection of Weber and Yonge, we want to create a sense of compression. It's something really interesting in this neighborhood is when you walk from Weber down Yonge, say even just 100 yards, you really get the sense that you've left this really busy life, and you've entered a whole different place, and you can see how the buildings slowly get further and further away from the street. It really opens up. So that was something we were trying to achieve, is to, create that compression, to emphasize this gateway into the neighborhood, and also create a sort of emphasis on the corner. Next slide, please. And so here you can see the current site plan and how we've done that in the bottom left-hand corner of that drawing. We've stuck out that corner to really emphasize the compression that you feel. The other thing that this is going to do is it's going to actually reflect some of that sound that you get from the cars. So it'll actually help reduce the sort of loud sounds that you'll get from Weber going down the street. Next slide, please. And so though we do intend to refine the look of this corner, how those sort of two windows, probably won't end up looking like that in the end, but how that actually addresses the corner, we do intend that this is going to be a focal point on the corner. Next slide. And the third thing that this does is it actually creates a really nice patio space. I think you remember that we're doing a sort of affordable housing for Abbeyfield. This is the floor plan. And at that corner, there's actually a really large patio where they can sit and, do their thing, knitting, whatever I don't know what they'll do, but those things. Next slide, please. So as you get closer into the design of the building, into more detail, I just want to quickly go over some of the elements that we're trying to focus on, is sort of the rhythms, the elevations, the elements in terms of bay windows, door features. Next slide. And the peaked roofs, we can't really mimic that in this sort of building, but we're trying to mimic the rhythm of the roofs within the windows, within the pitches and the canopies in the windows, as well as again, the textures that you're feeling. So we're trying to play with textures in different areas. Next slide. Again, just pulling out some of those details, some of the reliefs that really create the ambiance in this neighborhood. Next slide. And here you can see how we've tied in the house, how we're trying to keep the rhythm of the street. You can see there's two houses there, and the series of townhouses actually part of the building. Next slide. And then just a few buildings are sort of from the same era and how they achieved it there. Not that we're trying to copy these. Next slide. But it just gives an idea of how people have done this in the past in the sort of context. Next slide. And so what we want to say really is, when you see something that isn't really what you expect, your senses are awakened. You become a bit more attentive to what you're seeing, and we hope that this building is going to emphasize these sort of details that you find in the neighborhood to bring people back to that idea of craft, that idea of trying to reunite or rejuvenate that sense of community. Next slide, please. And this can be done in many different ways. I mean, there's 1,000 different ways we could design. Next slide. And here's one here locally. Next slide. So our discussions recently with the city have been leading to sort of removing a lot of that detail, a lot of that texture, a lot of those elements that we found within the conservation district. Something we find quite interesting and important to emphasize. So we we're hoping that the committee would help support our intent to maintain the character of the design and try and keep some of that detail. So next slide. And that's all I have to say. So if there's any questions, we can answer.
Great. Thank you very much, Steve. All right, so this item does not require a motion. Staff is looking for feedback from members of the committee. So I will open it up to the committee. If you have questions for Deeksha or for Rachel Redshaw from MHBC, as well as if you have comments on the HIA. Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, no, I don't have a question right now, but apparently one of the other delegations is actually in the waiting room.
Through you, Madam Chair, we are not using the waiting room today.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
I just got a text message. Maybe I'll try and get more information. Sorry, thanks.
If you can have Marg contact me directly before the item has run its course, I would be happy to try to facilitate where I can.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Questions or comments? Jean, I see your hand is up, and then we'll come up to Peter. So Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a question through to staff. And this was pointed out in the correspondence from Mr. Yeager, and also our first delegation, was it Mr. Varga from Roy Street? He talked about the angular plane, the error in the report, and I think there was some. I haven't got them all listed, but there were some other errors that were found in the report that don't coincide with the Heritage District information. So how are they going to be dealt with? Maybe staff can tell me.
Through the chair.
Thank you.
So,
yes.
So we are taking a comprehensive review of the Heritage Impact Assessment, and some of the issues that have been flagged are something that we are also considering, and we'll be in touch with the applicant to discuss them. So the Heritage Impact Assessment is also still in its draft stage, so it hasn't been approved. And we expect that these issues will be dealt with before it receives its final approval from our Director of Planning.
Very good, thank you. And now I have comments, and I'm assuming that Deeksha, that you are going to be taking these comments. And I don't know whether Ms. Rowell is going to be making a presentation, but it's the ACO comments, and I do have to agree. I have a lot of concern. Well, I should back up. I'm very thankful that the applicant is using and has used Tacoma engineers for an assessment, and to show in their assessment that the building is in very good condition and can withstand what is supposed to happen to it, and that the building is going to be moved all over, that it's going to be lifted and so on. What I have concern about is the foundation. And to me, that is very significant. I suppose if you go down to St. Jerome's, you will see a similar style of foundation. And looking at some of the other buildings of renown during that time period, like the early 1900s, you find this particular style of, I don't know, what is it, concrete or stone, and then the ribbed, what do you call it, masonry in between the blocks and so on. And I'm not sure from the assessment, once they put the building back, what is going to happen to it. So I would highly recommend that be for sure reinstated, as it's significant. to the structure and its appearance. And also in that the ACO report, I have concern about how the back end is being knocked out and hooked up with the new building. And I think it should be looked at one more time. And as it was pointed out that side bay window will be in a dark shadow. So granted, the applicant has come a long way with the proposal, and I would hope that they can go and that we would, work further to get a better result than I see at the moment. So those are my comments. Thank you, Diksha.
Thanks, Jean. Peter. Am I?
Put my hand down there. Thank you. I have one question and one comment. I guess I'll start with a comment. I think that we've seen several iterations of this project over the last few years, and I have to say that this latest iteration, I think, is by far the best, and is quite successful in what it tries to do, which is to ameliorate the large form of an apartment building with the little form of the house on the street. And I think the illustration that we saw earlier quite effectively illustrates how well that's done. The scale of the two-story section at the street really helps to modulate from the height of the apartment building to the lower height of the heritage building. It keeps the integrity of the street, and it quite cleverly scales up the building as it meets Weber Street. I think that's well done. My question is that in these earlier iterations, the program for this building was quite unique in that it brought together a whole bunch of diverse groups who would not normally find housing of this type, and put them all together in one project. I remember there was co-housing, there was the seniors women's housing, there was a variety of groups. So my question now is, what groups are involved in the project, and what is the program regarding the different parts of the building? What goes on in the tower, what goes on in the heritage building, and what goes on in that two-story building that faces the street as well? Thanks.
Do I answer?
The chair. Yeah, maybe Steve, you might be able to answer better than I can. Yeah.
First, thanks for the kind comments. Appreciate that. We have spent a lot of time trying to integrate the buildings with the neighborhood. In terms of well, actually, I have a bit of sad news, I suppose. Disappointing news is, given that we've been at this now for about 5 years, we've just been informed actually this morning that Abbey Field is pulling out. So we no longer have Abbey Field as a tenant for the building. They've lost the board. They've taken the funding that they had lined up for this project and spent it on another building. They just couldn't wait any longer. However, John is still committed to do some form of co-housing for seniors. So we still hope to do that for the 3rd and 4th floor. It's been designed specifically to do that. So we hope to do that still, although it may not be through an offer profit. It may be just directly through John or some other version. The lower 2 levels have always been townhomes, 2-story townhomes, and that's to relate directly to the neighborhood. Similar to, say, what you'd see at 140 Park Street in Waterloo, or where they have townhouses that directly front the neighborhood buildings that way, or you have somebody walking out the door with their dog or something, not like a parking garage or something. Then the say fifth floor and up will be typical apartment styles. So there'll be some 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. I think the ratio of 1 bedroom is probably under a third, 1 bedrooms. The 3 bedrooms will be occupied by a group called, it was called Senior Ladies. Now it's Senior Women living together. And so there are 18 rooms over 6 suites reserved for them. And so they'll live in 3-bedroom units together. And that still happens over the 5th to 7th floor, I guess. The top floor will have 3 sort of larger apartments that are 2 and 3 bedroom, and that steps back quite a bit, and so they don't have quite as much space. But then the top floor will have the amenity room along with a roof garden, so you could do vegetables or whatnot, and that's to encourage all habitants of the building, but also the Senior Ladies and the Abbeyfield people to have an opportunity to do, say potentially roof gardening and that sort of stuff.
So I guess in general, what I was hoping the question was, what's the percentage of the building units that are committed to specific social groups, and what percentage are just regular market-driven rental units?
Going from memory, I think there's 32 units in the building. Now the Abbeyfield units count as 2, but within the Abbeyfield there are 30 rooms.
I thought that you had just said that Abbeyfield was not participating.
Well, so yeah, the co-house, let's call it co-housing instead of Abbeyfield. So it'd be the co-housing, the 2 stories of co-housing, there are 30 rooms that make those up. So it's, and then the Senior Women living together, it came to 30% of the rooms as well. So that's I would say about 30% market rate, 30% Senior Ladies, and then 30% co-housing.
Okay, but you said that you don't really have a commitment from a co-housing group yet.
Correct.
Okay.
But it may end up being more like a 15%, or there will always be the Senior Women living together is the 30%. That's John's commitment, and that's what he's working through with CMHC currently.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, we have been able to get Marg on the call when you have a moment to hear her delegation.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Ilona, I have you next. Would you be okay to wait for Marg's presentation?
Absolutely, let's wait for Marg.
Perfect, thanks, Ilona. All right, so welcome, Marg. I will just remind you that you have 5 minutes for your presentation, and we are welcome to hear it as soon as you're ready.
Hi, are you talking to me?
Hi, yes, I am.
Oh, I'm sorry about all this computer. It's really fantastic. You can hear me, right?
We can hear you, yes.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Whoops. Oh, okay, great. Good afternoon, members of Heritage Kitchener and staff. I'm Marg Roll, Chair of the ACO North Waterloo Region Branch. 107 Yonge Street, built about 1912, has representative value as an arts and crafts house and has an historical association with the notable Kitchener architect Charles Mechtel. ACO North Waterloo Region has some concerns about the plans for the development of Weber Street West and Yonge Street. We are pleased that the house will not be removed temporarily and will remain on site. We question the removal of a portion of the southeast corner of the house and attaching it to the new structure. The removal of the portion of the building impacts the heritage attributes of the house and does not meet the standards and guidelines for the conservation of historic places in Canada, which recommends against the removal of the fabric of a heritage building. First, the revised HIA states that the redeveloped property will be compatible with the adjacent heritage resources with respect to height, massing, built form, and materials. However, the City of Kitchener's official plan states that development within or adjacent to established downtown neighborhoods will be compatible with and respectful of the existing built form and character of the area. Official Plan 3-2. The HIA notes that the proposed development is larger in height and massing than the adjacent heritage resources, but that 107 Yonge Street will be compatible with the overall design of the development. We believe this justification is contrary to the City of Kitchener's official plan and to the Civic Center Neighborhood Heritage Conservation District Plan and the standards and guidelines for the conservation of historic places in Canada. Second, the proposed removal of the original foundation of the house will affect the heritage attributes of 107 Yonge. We could have the second page. Demolition of a portion of 107 Yonge and incorporating the southeast side of the house will change the heritage value of the bay window, which is noted in the circle above in the image. The bay window attribute would be squeezed into a dark corner. The HIA even recommends lighting be employed to highlight 107 during evening hours. Such a recommendation only underscores the negative impact of the new building. The new structure, which is more than twice its height, renders the bay window as a dark crevice, practically invisible from the street and overshadowed by an 8-story building. The HIA tries to argue that the new building will be compatible with an historic heritage building. Connecting the new and the heritage building should not be permitted. Separating the new taller building would be preferable to the alteration and would retain the heritage value of 107 Yonge. The HIA states that the materials and details of the building will be saved following the standards and guidelines. So if the new building were to be removed in the future, 107 Yonge Street could be restored. It is highly unlikely that the new building would be removed, and even in decades to come. If 107 Yonge Street is valuable as a heritage building, it should be retained intact now. ACO North Waterloo Region strongly recommends that the 8-story building be reduced in size so that removal of a portion of the southeast corner would not be required. And that's respectfully submitted by myself and Mr. Gail Poole. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Marg. All right, Ilona.
Yes, I would really like to thank the developer for presenting their vision of this particular proposal today. I think that it does respect a lot of the different points that we have in our Civic Center Heritage District Plan. And I think it responds with very innovative approaches. Different types of seniors' needs are being met with this multifaceted approach. I was sad to hear that Abbeyfield is pulled out, but I'm hoping that you might be able to find a similar partnership. I do have a few questions about the HIA. Firstly, I'm not clear about whether the house at 107 Yonge is going to be temporarily relocated or whether it's going to be remaining in situ for the period of construction, because if you look through the HIA, it says both. So I just wanted to get clarification as to whether it's going to be moved or whether it's going to stay where it is, because it's not clear in the HIA.
Through the chair, 107 Yonge Street will remain on site.
Okay, so I think the HIA has to be updated to reflect that because it currently does not have that reflected in the HIA. Secondly, I also had some questions about, let me see here, where's my other point? In his presentation, Neil had mentioned his concerns about the angular plane analysis that was used in the HIA, and I have heard many of our members of our community of the Civic Center also express these concerns. And when the HIA was brought to Heritage Kitchener last year in August, I also pointed out at that time that the origin of the angular plane analysis didn't make any sense. So I think what what seems to be included here in the analysis is that the 1994 secondary plan and the Heritage Conservation District study is quoted in the HIA. And I just had some questions about what kind of standing these particular studies or plans, policies have when it comes to prioritizing policies with planning documents. What takes precedent? What is the more important document in this case here? And maybe this is a question for Garrett.
Yes, thank you. I think actually, well, I'll ask Diksha to respond first, and then I can certainly supplement the answer if need be.
Thanks, Garrett. Through the chair, the Heritage Conservation District Plan takes precedence over the HCD study.
So do they play a role at all in this? Because they are mentioned in the HIA. So is this language going to be removed from the HIA?
Yes, so staff are currently reviewing the HIA, as I mentioned to Jean, and we have taken up some of the issues that have been mentioned, and we're going to be in touch with the applicant to discuss the justification that was provided.
Okay, because they do say that because the 1994 secondary plan and the Heritage Conservation District study, which was used to prepare the Heritage Conservation Plan, mentioned that it's the reason that they use for the origin of the angular plane analysis on the north side of Roy Street. But clearly from Neil's presentation and even from my own walks in the neighborhood, I can tell you that the house at the corner, the south corner of Roy and Yonge Streets is a residential property. There are people living in that house. So I'm not quite clear why the north side of Roy Street would be used and not the house at the corner of Roy and Yonge for the origin of the angular plane analysis. So maybe that would be a question for the consultant.
To the chair, Rachel, would you want to jump in?
I just want to mention Pierre Chauvin is here from MHBC as well. So I think he's listed as a member. And I think Diksha added the draft HIA and then the revised draft. So just make sure that we're looking at the revised draft. The revised draft, we did revise the angular plane. And I think even if you do it with the revision, it still was meeting the angular plane. But I can pass it on to Pierre. He might can maybe expand on that.
Well, I guess the short answer is, from my perspective, we have not done it wrong. The angular plane is to be measured to the residential area. I forget the actual designations, but the corner property that you're referring to on the south side of Roy is actually in a transition area, and it's anticipated that it has different zoning from the established low-rise residential area. So that's why we chose the north side of Roy, because that is where the single detached homes are permitted. Only those types of uses are permitted, not other forms of uses, and that's what the policies in the district plan suggest. So we believe we've done it correctly, and I guess we'll work with staff. And then either way, I think it's been acknowledged that there is no impact, wherever you measure it, there is no impact from an angular plane matter. So it's almost kind of semantic, but I think.
But then I have a question for you. Why would you use the north side of Roy Street when there is no impact? And actually, Sarah, if you could pull up the slide that I had requested be available. Okay.
And to answer your question, as I stated, that's where on the opposite side is designated low rise, and that area that is zoned CR3, and even on the south side of Roy is kind of in a transition zone. And although there may be a residential use there today, in the fullness of time, that could change in accordance with the land use designations that are currently in place.
But currently, both 113 113 Yonge Street and the building across the street on Roy Street on the north side of Roy are zoned R5. So clearly, it makes far more sense to have the angular plane analysis start from the south side of 113 Yonge Street.
Well, I guess I'd just respectfully disagree. And you've heard the reasons for which we've drawn it this way, and you'd have to agree or disagree.
But when
Right. So I'm going to jump in because I believe staff are looking for input, and I don't think we're going to be able to resolve this in committee. So Diksha, I'll ask you to take this away. You can use this as information for moving forward in drafting the HIA for us.
I did have one more comment.
Go ahead.
And that is that the HIA makes reference to tall buildings. And I'm really not clear why this would be included in this particular HIA when it's only an 8-story building and that's not considered to be a tall building. So I'm not sure why that kind of reference was even included. Just a comment.
All right, thanks, Ilona. All right, are there any other questions or comments on this item?
Sorry, could I just say something very quick just to all that? I think just speaking on John's behalf, just so we can get to a conclusion here, because we don't want this to hold up going forward. I think John would be okay to change that angular plane if staff says that that's the benefit, if that's the right way to go. So if staff agrees that that's the way we should go, we could adjust that angular plane. I think it's a staff call there.
Great, thanks, Steve. Jordan, I see your hand has been raised, and then Martin after.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just had a quick question. Well, a comment and a question. Like others have commented on, I want to say that it is great to see the progress on that plot of land there. I think it is really great, that progress. So I want to commend you on that for sure. I did want to just ask if the developer could comment on on some of the apprehensions around the loss of that back corner on the Yonge Street property, and also the loss of heritage attributes associated with that bay window, etc., just kind of in that corner space. I was just wondering if there were any additional comments that you had to comment on some of the what's been brought up in the meeting so far.
Thanks, Jordan. Steve.
Yeah, so it's very, very simply, we have for building code, we have to connect the two buildings. Otherwise, a whole host of other things come into play, which makes it very infeasible. So the buildings do need to be connected. That's pretty much a necessity through building code. We can't avoid it. I'm not sure I understand the loss of the heritage attributes for the bay window. The bay window will stay. Actually, I guess somebody else was asking about the process. The building will stay in place, and it'll be excavated from underneath and then supported from underneath in place where it stays. So that's the intent.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was just looking for if you had any comments on what had been mentioned before. So thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Martin.
Hi, just to Steve. I was just wondering, because you did mention the possibility of changing the angular plane, the starting point. Do you have an idea of what the impact would be in terms of number or size of units or other considerations if you were to do that?
It won't impact this building at all. Okay. So we can, yeah, that's I don't know, a technical matter. I don't really know. I know that John's fine to move it if that's what we get told to do.
Okay.
As you saw, just if I can interject, the image that was shown here had the two measurements. So whether you measured it from the rear of the South Roy Street lot or the north side, it still complied. But just to be clear, despite what Mr. Burrows said, we don't agree with moving that or the interpretation of that.
All right, thank you. Committee members, other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, Deeksha, I'll entrust you to take all of these comments away as you continue to work on this draft HIA. Thank you to all of our guests for attending, delegates, developers, owners, and everyone from HMBC as well, MHBC. I'll get the acronym initialism right one day. So thank you all. All right, so there's no motion required for that one. So we'll move on to item 3.4, which is the notice of intention to demolish the former old men's residence of Grand River Hospital Freeport Campus, 3570 King Street East. And Deeksha, I'll pass it over to you to provide an overview for this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Grand River Hospital sits on what was previously the Freeport Sanatorium, and the whole site is listed as a non-designated property of cultural heritage value or interest. We were approached by the applicant to demolish the old men's residence, which is built of the Georgian Revival architectural style. It's been vacant for the past 20 years, approximately, and there are currently no plans to redevelop it or restore it. Because it's been sitting vacant for the past 20 years-ish, it's fallen into significant disrepair. A section of the roof has fallen off. Sections of brickwork have fallen off. Most of the windows are boarded up or broken. The window sills have deteriorated. The doors have been deteriorated. Staff went for a site visit, I think it was sometime in February, to take pictures and to conduct a visual building assessment. We couldn't get access to the interior of the building because it wasn't safe to do so. An HIA was conducted for the site in I think 2007, because there was an expansion proposed to the Grand River Hospital, and the HIA concluded that the former nurses' residence is perhaps the most significant building out of all of the 9 buildings that are listed. It is the first building that was built, and the Georgian Revival architectural style of the consequent buildings was taken from this building. So staff are recommending that due to the current condition of the building, that the notice be allowed to run its course, but prior to any demolition activity, that we can document this building efficiently.
Great, thanks, Deeksha. All right, so we also have Kevin Wilson and Angelo Sicato from the Grand River Hospital who are in attendance to respond to any questions from the committee. This will require a motion, but first, questions or comments? Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to staff. Is it possible to save, recover, and reuse any of the bricks from this building? I have not seen this building. However, from the picture, it looks like they're a quality brick and a type that could be reused. So can staff answer the question?
I can answer that question, actually. It's a great idea, and it is a type of brick that matches many of the buildings that are on our site, and it is absolutely our intention to take 3 or 4 skids of brick and save them for that kind of reuse.
Right. If I may, Madam Chair, I would like to make a comment.
Yep, go ahead, Jean.
Thank you. I have to say how disappointed I am that this building has resulted in this travesty. I just do not understand how an organization that has access to experts in how to, shall we say, mothball buildings, keep the buildings dry, and do the assessment, even if they haven't got a use at the moment, but do even look for reuse. And I really am very, very disappointed on this part, especially an organization that runs a hospital and then this particular building, and why not have secured it over the time. Now, one of the interesting things I saw has to do with the fact of using a foam, formaldehyde, I forget what it is, the foam for insulation. And I want you to know that in 1978, foam was a way that was recommended to fill the air cavity between your bricks and your plaster. And then we learned that it was not good and unhealthy. And I have to question, when we're making buildings so energy efficient today, and they say these items are very good for energy efficiency today, what in fact will they come up with, say, 20, 30 years from now? Again, as I say, my dismay and my disappointment that this building hasn't been mothballed in a very substantial way. Thank you.
And I would like to update, we had Diksha out on site to have a look around. And Diksha, I've been here at the hospital 20 years. I've been the director of facilities since 2014. We have a fellow that works in our department that's been here since 1976. And the building's actually been empty since 1976. So more like 46 years. So I don't know if that helps anybody, but if you've seen the pictures, you can see that makes a lot more sense. It does not speak to the mothballing of the building, and I can't speak to that, obviously, but.
If I may, if you were to go to Charleston, South Carolina, you would find boarded up buildings that are maintained. And I think we could do that effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean. Councillor Michaud.
Thank you, the chair. I agree with Jean. I was very disappointed to see that this building, has been left for so long. On the other hand, I'm grateful that Grand River Hospital has taken over the Freeport building and has maintained the women's side of it, and I think done a fairly good job of it. I've been there a number of times, and for the record, my mother spent 2 years in the sand long before I was born. So there's a lot of history in our family, and that goes back with that area. So I looked at that small building being torn down because it's just been left alone, but then on the other hand, the rest of the whole property is looking quite well. So I'm hoping that the rest of the building will stand the test of time, and I'm happy, Mr. Wilson, that there will be skids of bricks kept aside to ensure that we can keep the integrity of the rest of the property and the buildings there, because it is a very special place for a lot of people, and it does have a lot of history. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Councillor Michaud. Other questions or comments from committee? Jordan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm not too familiar with the property either, but what exists so far right now in terms of any sort of historical plaques or commemorations or information on site. Is there anything there currently? And this might be a question for Mr. Wilson or whoever may know that.
I'm not sure exactly what we're looking for. I know that one of the buildings we took down probably 12 years ago, I believe we used some artifacts in a new build at our hospital. I'm not saying there's anything that could be used from the old men's residence. If we thought there was, we have no issues with saving an artifact or two. That's not a problem for us.
Thank you for that. It just when Councillor Michaud was talking about that kind of personal connection, and which I'm sure there's lots of around as well with the past history of it, that it might be something worth looking into, and not just reuse of artifacts or bricks or other things like that, but things that could tell that story a little bit. And make it a center, or not a center, but it's something there that could tell that story for people that would be interested to know.
Great, thanks, Jordan. Other questions or comments?
Yeah, if I may add some, we have two buildings right now that are the same age as the men's residence. One's called the Thrift Shop. It's a vacant building, and we've just put in a request to our contractors for about $100,000 to put in a new roof, replace windows, and fix up the siding. That is the building when you enter off of King Street. It looks like a small house to the right. So we are investing money into that so we don't get into the situation that we're in now with the men's. Also, there's another building closer to our main campus. It's called the former Independent Living Center. Again, it's been vacant for about 10 to 12 years. We've already replaced the windows on it. And right now it's with our consultants to put a proposal in to make that an administration building for staff and visitors or whatever. It's not a clinic. It can't be a clinical building because it's not conducive to patients. So we are in fact trying to restore some of the vacant buildings that are on the site. This men's residence, back in 2004, it was assessed by the Ministry of Health consultant. It would be approximately $4.5 million to restore it. And not only that, but it's far away from the facility, so it can't be really clinical. And it's also on the GRCA floodplain. And we already have approval from them that we could do this, but we couldn't really put anything back in there because of the floodplain.
Through you, Madam Chair, just a point of clarification. I don't believe that this is an item on today's agenda.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. That's helpful. All right, so thank you for the information, but we will focus the discussion just on the old men's residence for today. All right. Any further questions or comments on the old men's residence demolition? All right, this item does require a motion. Would anyone care to make that? Councillor Michaud? All right, so this motion, because it's a demolition, does have to go to council, so it will go on May 9th next week for ratification. And the motion reads that in accordance with section 27(3) of the Ontario Heritage Act, the notice of intention to demolish received on March 17th, 2022 regarding the old men's residence located on the property municipally addressed as 3570 King Street East be received for information, and that the notice period run its course, and that the city arranged to have the old men's residence properly documented through photographs prior to any demolition activity. Councillor Michaud?
be something mentioned in this now I trust the bricks are going to be saved, but should there be something mentioned in this that a number of the bricks will be saved for this for future, or is that necessary?
I'm going to pass that question to Deeksha or Garrett, who may have a better answer than I have. Deeksha?
Through the chair, the report does mention that the applicant plans to salvage.
Oh,
and
sorry.
reuse the
Okay.
bricks.
All right.
Great, thanks, Deeksha. All right, so Councilor Michaud, you are comfortable moving the motion as stated? Great. All right, so questions or comments on the motion? Camera adjustment, not a hand. Okay. All right, we'll do our vote by roll then. Councilor Chapman is still here. Councilor Chapman?
Sorry, I approve.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Gazzola?
In favor.
Thank you. Councilor Michaud?
In favor.
Thank you. Jordan?
In favor.
Martin?
In favor.
Thank you. Jean?
Abstain.
Okay, Peter?
In favor.
Thank you. I am in favor. Ilona?
In favor.
Thank you. And Shannon? Sorry, Shannon. We just missed what you said.
In favor.
Thank you. Okay, so that does pass and it will go to council on May 9th. All right, so we will move on then to our next item, which is item 3.5, the subcommittee updates. So I will invite our subcommittees to provide updates on their recent meetings. And I'm going to begin with the designation and municipal heritage register. So Peter.
Thank you. The subcommittee met on the 28th. There were 4 members, and our latest member is Shannon. Thanks for joining us for the continued building tour. We continue our task of reviewing the heritage list of heritage buildings that are of municipal heritage register that are of interest but are not designated. We are now up to 13, and we carry on. As we mentioned the last time that these properties, as we review them, we have questions that come up for staff, and I just wondering whether this is the appropriate place to kind of go through this list, or whether that should be something that we do in a separate forum.
Through the chair, we can take this up offline after the meeting.
Is that okay with the other members of our subcommittee?
I know Garrett also has his hand up here, so I presume you have an answer to this question also, Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think give us an opportunity if you want to provide the questions in advance by email. Some of them may take a little bit of research. We'd be happy to respond. And then if there's any discussion stemming from our response or any additional information, probably utilize the time more effectively of the committee focusing on that. But we would be happy to be able to answer questions in advance by email.
Great. Thank you. I will do that for the next time around. And that is all I have to report.
Great, thanks, Peter. All right, let's do the effects of heritage designation on affordability. Martin.
Yeah, so first of all, we had a meeting the other day, Jordan and myself, and so just been doing more reading. We were compiling a list, and I've added a few more to that list. As far as larger kind of updates, I did hear back from a contact at Wilfrid Laurier University at the economics department, and she suggested some other academics that we could be in touch with to kind of talk about this research project. Also, and it was just recently reached out to heritage staff here just about something that we had talked about kind of a while back. So just to kind of refresh people's memory. So Jordan and I each had, so Jordan with the UW planning department and myself with the WLU economics department had kind of reached out to academics. And then there was the thought of, well, if they might be assisting us in any capacity with this work, is there a chance that they could get formal recognition? And the answer I understood was yes, but we're not sure exactly what that might mean. So just for the benefit of the people that we're reaching out to, maybe sometime we can either meet to talk about that, or if it's more of a simple kind of here's what it might look like, then maybe we don't need to meet. That's kind of up to your discretion, but I'm happy to meet if that helps. And that's pretty much my full update.
All right, thanks, Martin. Okay, we'll do promoting cultural heritage. So Jean.
Thank you, Sam. The Heritage Promotion Committee met April 27, and there are 3 points. So what we've talked about was the highlighting the dates for this year's Jane's Walk, May 6, 7, and 8. And there are a few local tours that are being handled by local people in different areas. The city will resume full agenda of the walks in 2023, and we would suggest that Heritage Kitchener think about how we might participate and plan to participate for next year. Second thing, with respect to the neighborhoods of Civic Center and Heritage District and Central Frederick neighborhood, they will be approached to see if they could hold, once again, a front yard day. In other words, looking not only at the heritage structures on the property, on the sites, but the landscaping of those buildings. And the last one is exploring a potential tour of the former area of Dune around Canada Day. And we intend to contact local reps for participation. That's the report.
Great, thanks, Jean. And the last subcommittee is the Decolonizing the Heritage Process. And the short report that I have is that they are continuing to set up meetings with staff to discuss how some of the best practices can sort of move forward with heritage, and continuing to do reading and exploration of best practices from other jurisdictions. And that is that report. Okay. Questions from the committee on subcommittee updates? Peter.
Yeah, I just had a question regarding the Jane's Walks. It was my understanding that they were not being officially organized again this year, and that's the second year in a row. But it was then again sort of set to launch next year in full again. When it does, I would encourage every member of the committee to participate in one. It's a very fascinating event, and it has, you know, it has some great value, and it's kind of a it's something that you really have to participate in order to understand what it is. So I suggest anyone to go for a Jane's Walk when it comes around again.
Thanks, Peter. Martin, I see you have your hand up.
Oh, yes, just because Peter mentioned the Jane's Walks, it's true that the organizing committee, the Waterloo Region Jane's Walk group is on hold. However, some people, actually including myself, have more informally organized Jane's Walks. So I don't have a full list in front of me. Of course, I know when mine is, which is at Benton Medical Center at 4:45 on the Sunday. I know that some people involved with John McDonald Architects there's one, a tour of taller buildings, that's on the Saturday, and there's another one on Sunday at 3. And so I think maybe we can kind of follow up with an email of what those are, but there are some in the community. They're just not officially organized by the local Jane's Walk chapter because they're not active this year.
It's true, Martin. Councillor Michaud?
Yeah, just to Martin's point, I think they're listed on Eventbrite. Did you say that already? I didn't hear you say it. If you did.
No, thank you.
Yeah, those you can find some locally on Eventbrite, but they're just independent. Yeah.
Great, thanks everyone. All right, further questions on our subcommittees? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our next item, which is status updates. It says here in my notes that there are no updates to share at this time. I just want to confirm that there aren't any additional updates.
No, Madam Chair, no.
Perfect, thank you. You never know how fast things can move. All right, so next is item 4, which is our information items. And Garrett, you have some considerations for June's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to highlight and create awareness with the committee that we are looking at a fairly full agenda for the June Heritage Kitchener meeting. We will be asking for comments on 4 heritage impact assessments. All 4 projects involve redevelopment and integration of built cultural heritage resources. So we anticipate that there'll be a lot of discussion and questions. That being said, we do anticipate that the meeting could be longer than usual. We have been very good, and Madam Chair, you're very good at ending the meeting on time and sometimes early. So what we are proposing is that we're asking for consideration to potentially extend the meeting till 7 o'clock if need be, so that we can have fruitful discussion. As the committee members are aware, there are timelines with respect to development applications, so it isn't feasible to move these to later into the summer for discussion. So we certainly want the committee's advice on all of these heritage impact assessments moving forward. What we are recommending is if we can do a 3-hour meeting and the committee is agreeable, maybe there'd be possibility for a 5 to 10 minute break midway through. And also what we would recommend or what we're suggesting we do is that we will provide the heritage impact assessments to the committee very shortly this week, so that you do have those for an extended period of time. I know we do value that everyone's time, and you are a volunteer committee, so we want to make sure that we provide you adequate time to review those. So we would post the heritage impact assessments as part of the regular agenda setting, but we could provide them to the committee in advance.
Thanks, Garrett. And just on the timelines note, this committee also does not meet in July. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
All right. So the proposal is for a longer meeting next month, but then we are not meeting the month after. I see several hands, so we'll do Ilona, Jordan, Jean.
Yes, I can appreciate if we're going to miss a meeting in July that there's going to be a full agenda for the one in June. But again, I'm glad that Garrett mentioned that we will be receiving these ahead of time, because getting 4 proposals or 4 HIAs, the week before is not enough time, because I work full time. So I do need that time to be able to review them in depth. Thanks.
Yes, we will. We are happy to do that. Thank you.
Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. And that's fine on my end. And I would appreciate them, like Alana said, to have them well enough in advance to go over them. And just for a point of clarification, none of these are draft HIAs. These are full HIAs that will be voted on. Is that correct, Garrett?
Diksha can confirm, but I believe that there's a mix.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Diksha is nodding along to there being a mix. Okay, so a variety of things coming our way. Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with everyone. The sooner the better they come out. I'm just wondering, are these proposals first time, or has the committee seen the proposals in the past before this committee came, before the committee of 2021 came to be, or 2020, whatever it is? Are they new?
Through the chair, I believe these would be the first time that the committee would be considering these HIAs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jean. I do want to give an opportunity if anyone is opposed to extending our meeting in June. All right, I will take the very loud silence as no one is overwhelmingly upset by the idea of extending the meeting. So Garrett will move ahead with the proposal then to have an extended June meeting, have the HIAs or the draft HIAs and the HIAs and the draft HIAs sent to committee earlier so that there can be time for review. And then we will also take a break partway through to facilitate that.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the committee for your consideration of this. And it'll be an exciting meeting. I think there'll be really great discussion, and we just wanted to make sure we had time for it. So thank you very much, everyone.
Great, thanks, Garrett. Looking forward to it. All right. Any other information items for the committee? All right, seeing none, we will move to adjourn. Have a wonderful May, everyone, and make sure you get your stretch